one for President-elect Donald Trump meeting with Kanye West, and more importantly, for our purposes, NFL greats Ray Lewis and Jim Brown at his New York transition offices at Trump Tower. Here they are on the meeting.
We believe what the Trump administration is, if we can combine these two powers of coming together, forget black or white. Black or white is irrelevant. The bottom line is job creation, economic development in these urban neighborhoods to change the whole scheme of what our kids see for our next future. I think there's nobody we can't reach, and I think that's why we're here, because we can bring a lot of people to work together. And
we're not here because of politics. We are here to help the President of the United States help the people that need help.
So Brown said he fell in love with Trump after meeting him. Max, how do you feel about this?
Well, you know, when the president-elect says he doesn't need daily briefings because he's like a smart person, well, he's right. He is playing distraction politics here, and Jim Brown is playing right into it. I mean, a Putin business associate he nominates for Secretary of State. And what are we talking about? What are the names you just said, Molly? We just talked about Kanye West and now Jim Brown. So look, Jim Brown is pursuing an agenda that is important to him and is important, period, by the way. Of course, economic development in the inner city is a worthwhile cause. But if in order to pursue that end, he is willing to be used as a pawn in the president-elect's distraction politics, okay, fine, that's a decision Jim Brown makes. But he should be aware, and being a smart guy, I'm sure that Jim Brown, I assume he is aware that that's what's happening, because that is what's happening. And I guess that's fine, although if the president-elect continues to flout American political norms and once he becomes president, undermines democratic institutions, then I hope Jim Brown is there to say that he's not so crazy about what the president is doing. Because right now, this is a bad look.
I completely disagree with you. I don't think it's a bad look at all. And what I would caution everybody to think about, Max, is this. You literally have conservatives, not just on Capitol Hill, but beyond, thinking that Donald Trump is going to be a problem because the rhetoric that he spewed during the election and the kind of impression that he's given and with his cabinet selections, that ultimately he's going to turn and he's going to be more of a leftist because of some of the policies that he's adopting. We don't know what the hell he's going to do. He's the president-elect. Once he's inaugurated, let's find out and we'll go from there. To address Jim Brown and Ray Lewis, that's the issue in question at this particular moment in time. And when you think about what Jim Brown's agenda is, that is what I think we should focus on. It remains to be seen whether Donald Trump is genuine or not. We'll find out. We suspect that he won't be, but we don't know. We'll see. But there's nothing to question here about Jim Brown in terms of how he looks. I think what he said and how he looks is consistent with who he has been. Let's think about this. Let's read up on our history. This is the same guy that organized athletes to support Muhammad Ali when, you know, he refused to enter the armed services, enter the army, and he was stripped of his heavyweight crown. This is the same Jim Brown that founded the Black Economic Union to promote economic development within the African American community. When in the 1980s, where you had violence, raiding, going on all over the place, particularly between the Crips and the Bloods, it was Jim Brown that felt that issue usurped the importance of economic development within the black community, because he felt it was imperative that, you got folks to stop killing one another. This is what led to the founding of the American Foundation. And so when you look at it from all of those different situations and you listen to him and Ray Lewis talking yesterday, what they were talking about was addressing the issues permeating through the black community right now and what needed to be done to stir economic development and growth within the African American community. You got people bringing up the obstruction of justice charge that Ray Lewis ultimately pleaded to in 2000, as if 16 years later, that has something to do with it. The man was tried. You heard the case. He pled guilty to an obstruction of justice charge. Didn't stop him from playing for the Baltimore Ravens. Didn't stop him from making contributions issues within the community. Didn't stop him from winning another Super Bowl champion, by the way. All right, didn't stop him from doing any of that, and it certainly didn't stop him from being employed by ESPN and other networks. And so let's keep our eyes on the ball here and understand no matter what we feel about Trump, these individuals and their cause is very legit.
Listen,
and go from there.
That's why I said that Jim Brown's agenda that's important to him is an important one, period. And he's done plenty of good work. I'm a fan of his in that respect. In this case, first of all, Trump has zero cabinet appointments that makes anyone on Capitol Hill think that he's leftist. He has alarmed some Russia hawks on the right and on the left.
I didn't say that the cabinet appointments was leftist.
But you brought up that his policy would be
I said
left.
there were people on Capitol Hill who suspect that he's going to go left, regardless of what you're seeing from him with the cabinet appointments. That's what I said.
Okay, regardless of that. Okay, that's a different point. In terms of Jim Brown, I agree with your point about him that if you're coming from a point of view that, look, these are the issues important to me. And so whatever else happens, I'm putting that aside for a second. I have the president-elect of the United States willing to meet with me and work with me on constructively, in my opinion, on an issue that's important to me. And by the way, I mentioned that's important, period. That's fine. But understand you're gaining that access because you're being used as a pawn in distraction politics, which is why if I don't bring up that point right now, you will not hear about that on most media outlets. You will hear about Kanye West and Jim Brown. That's the point.
Wait a minute. But how is it distraction politics as it pertains to Jim Brown if Jim Brown's issue is helping the inner city community?
It's not to Jim
Brown. Wait,
he's getting something out of it. He's getting access, and he might be getting support out of it.
Well, if that's the case, any politician, everything. When Barack Obama signed Obamacare into law and had the little kid next to him, that's distraction politics.
No, that's not distraction politics. That's a photo op.
It's not distraction politics.
Had Obama met with Kim Kardashian that day, that would have been distraction politics.
Do you really believe that Jim Brown meeting with President-elect Trump, along with Ray Lewis, and them addressing issues that are permeating throughout the African-American community, do you really think that's going to distract America from whatever Trump is doing? It's one of the issues.
Well, we're not. Obviously, it is.
We're talking about it. That doesn't mean we forget or we're not having our eyes on everything else he's doing. That's one issue.
No.
We're addressing the issue.
In terms of the importance of the meeting, it will be disproportionately covered by the American media compared to other more important issues.
Guys, we got to keep the show moving here, and we got to get back to sports. Sorry to cut you off. Coming up.
I feel bad for Canelo because Canelo is not the ducking type. Because he doesn't want to throw his promoter under the bus, he's taking bullets from fans saying, you're ducking Triple G.
Canelo doesn't want to throw Oscar De La Hoya under the bus. I will. Oscar De La Hoya right now looks like a flaming hypocrite.
The bottom line is Triple G wanted this fight for a long time, but his promoter doesn't want to take that risk against Triple G, a man that most consider the baddest man on the planet.
All right, so there's that. Our next guest is boxing royalty, winning 10 titles in 6 different weight classes, including the lineal championship in 3 weight classes. He's currently the CEO and chairman of Golden Boy Promotions, the first Mexican-American to own a national boxing promotional firm. We welcome Oscar De La Hoya to the show, who joins us ahead of Bernard Hopkins' final fight against Joe Smith Jr. at the Forum. Oscar, thank you so much for being with us.
And good morning to you guys.
Good morning. Stephen A., take it away.
Now, Oscar, you know I love you. We'll get into why I got on you being a hypocrite about the Canelo Triple G, but you know I love you. We'll get to that just a little bit, but one of the biggest reasons, I got to do you some justice because, look, I'm personal friends with Bernard Hopkins. He and I go back almost 20 years. To me, I want you to talk about this fight, what it means to him, what it should mean to the rest of us, because he's fighting at age 50 for crying out loud. Right. I don't like it, but he wanted to do it. How do you feel about this, Oscar?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was an honor stepping inside the ring with a legend like Bernard Hopkins. I mean, even though I got stopped in the 9th round, it was an honor. And promoting him, being a partner at Golden Boy Promotions, it really is a pleasure. But 51 years old, his opponent is half his age. He's a dangerous opponent, but I believe Hopkins can still do it because he takes care of himself. He's a real, true athlete. He's the epitome of what an athlete should be. He doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. He goes to sleep at 9 o'clock, wakes up at 6 a.m. He's working out every single day, so he can afford to be a fighter at this age.
Oscar, I want to get to the Triple G Canelo stuff quickly. You as a fighter were promoted by Bob Arum brilliantly for much of your career, your professional career, and you were undefeated and you were making a ton of money. And my read about what happened with you is you were hearing fans talking about, well, Oscar's not fighting this guy and Oscar's not fighting that guy. And you wrestled control of your own career. And then Oscar, you fought everybody. You mentioned the Hopkins fight. He was a middleweight. You weren't a middleweight. You were the money man. You didn't need Hopkins to make money. You could have made money with anybody. You fought Bernard Hopkins. You fought Shane Mosley. You fought Felix Trinidad. You fought Ike Cortez. You fought everybody, Oscar, as a fighter. And now you're a promoter with a meal ticket like Canelo, as you were once a meal ticket for Bob Arum. Mm-hmm. And from where I'm sitting, it seems as though you are reluctant to risk your meal ticket in with a killer like Triple G. What say you to that?
No reluctancy whatsoever. When I fought all those guys, I was already maybe 25, 26 years old. And guess what? Canelo is now 26 years old, and he's ready to take on the best. I mean, look, Canelo has to go up to 160. He just cannot fight the best fighter at 160, moving up from 154. Canelo is ready to fight Triple G in 2007 as long as Triple G signs the contract. That's it. That's all we're waiting for. So, look,
but
I'm
Oscar,
looking forward.
Isn't that like a tried and true strategy in boxing? You can always put poison pills in a contract or offer a guy a deal that he ain't going to take, and then one side or the other, usually the ducking side, can say he didn't sign the deal?
I have to disagree because it's a deal that is an incredible deal for both guys. So I'm being fair here. I'm being fair to the public. I'm being fair to the fans. This fight must happen in 2017, and it will happen, believe me.
Okay.
Well, Oscar, getting back to my hypocritical comment, I'm clearly not talking about Oscar De La Hoya, the fighter. I know how great you are. Major props to you, my brother. Major props to you. But I got to get on Oscar De La Hoya, the promoter here. Based on everything you just said, what the hell did you have Canelo Alvarez, Saul Canelo Alvarez, called Triple G into the ring after you knocked out Mr. Glassjaw and undersized himself, Amir Khan, last May 7th? If you knew that y'all weren't ready to rumble that fall, why in God's name have Triple G come into the ring and tease us all into believing that was what we were going to see next? What was up with that?
I mean, that was out of my hands. Fighters sometimes, they're weird. That's the bottom line. And it was out of my hands. And look, but I'll tell you one thing. And this is. I mean, I can say this in the court of law. And this is the truth that in 2017. We want this fight to happen. Canelo wants it. I want it. The fans want it. And like I said, look. We're offering Triple G a fair contract, more than fair contract, an incredible contract, and we're hoping that September of 2017 this fight can happen.
Well, Max, before you come back, let's see. Here's where I got some issues with what you're saying, Oscar, because Triple G obviously is a legit middleweight, and we know that Canelo's on the come up. Triple G's whole thing is that, I shouldn't have to lose weight, go from 160 to 155 or whatever the case may be. If this guy is walking around calling himself a middleweight champion, that's one point. And if Canelo is
You never made catch weights, Oscar. You never made catch weights. You fought.
But check it out, Max. Oscar, if Canelo is so ready, why have your last two fights been against Amir Khan and Liam Smith? Are you kidding me? That's what y'all... Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, look, Canelo truly is a 54-pounder. I mean, he is. He can make the weight with no problem. And Canelo and I and the team has decided that for 2017, he will move up to middleweight, full-fledged middleweight, and fight the middleweight champions of the world, and that's including Triple G.
At 160, you're saying?
At 160, that's it. I mean,
Okay,
there's no catch weights here.
Oscar.
There's no catch weights here at Golden Boy Promotions.
Oscar, this is live television now. This is live television,
this
Oscar.
is live.
And by the way, just to give everyone a sense of Oscar De La Hoya's quality as a fighter, at almost the very end of his career, after having now admitted that he didn't always, do the Hopkins thing and not drink and smoke and party and abuse his body, etc., you gave Floyd Mayweather in his prime a tough, competitive fight, and that was clearly you out of your prime. So
Right.
Oscar De La Hoya is an all-time great fighter. We all understand that. Oscar,
Thank you.
as it relates to Bernard Hopkins and this fight with Smith, Smith earned this fight with a first-round knockout of Fonfara, a tough guy who'd beaten Chavez Jr. What do you think about the quality of the matchup? Obviously, you're not looking to get Hopkins beaten in his last fight, and yet Bernard himself seems to need to feel challenged in order for him to get himself in shape to fight. What do you think of the matchup itself?
I think the matchup is, it's going to remind me of maybe a younger, fresher Kelly Pavlik. Bernard Hopkins is a fighter who knows how to dissect you. He knows how to take you apart and finish the fight in the later rounds. I think Bernard Hopkins is going to have a great time in there. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Joe Smith is a very durable, tough guy from the East Coast, All-American who's going to go out there and do his very best. But he does have power. He does have skill, and he's here to win. So it's going to be a tough fight for both guys. But I think Bernard Hopkins, his ring generalship, his skill, his experience, I think it's going to overtake the young Joe Smith.
Well, I love that Kelly Pavlik analogy, Oscar, because I used to love Kelly Pavlik. As
Right.
I don't know what the hell has happened to him, but I will say this to you: are you going to encourage Bernard Hopkins to keep his word and make sure this is his last fight? Because I really don't like the fact that a 51-year-old dude, as great as I know my man Bernard Hopkins is, I don't like the idea that a 51-year-old dude is in with any kind of young lion in the sport of boxing. Are you going to encourage this man to retire to keep his word and make sure this is his last fight?
I'm convinced this is his last fight, and believe me, look, we already have the Bernard Hopkins grilling machine for him when he retires. So just like George Foreman. So this is his last one. We're hoping it's his last one, but I really do believe him. He's working hard. He's out there, exposing himself to the world. He's a new man. He's a changed man. He's a man of that's very positive. He's a influential man. I believe that Bernard Hopkins is bigger than boxing. I believe that Bernard Hopkins, once he's done and retired, I believe he's going to have such an inspirational story where he can just be bigger than the sport.
Hey, Oscar, real quick before you go, I just want to say that as a fighter, you oftentimes put competition and glory and your legacy ahead, and really serving the boxing fans ahead of your own business interests at times. I mean,
that's true.
I mentioned the Hopkins fight, and I hope as a promoter, and you've done an amazing job. I never thought you would be as successful as you are and would have stuck to it through all the ups and downs, and you have. What you've done with Golden Boy is very impressive.
Thank you.
I want to tell you right now that I hope that as a promoter, you live up to that legacy that you set as a fighter, and whatever the business interests are, you make that Triple G and Canelo fight happen in 2017.
I guarantee it. I guarantee it, and I will put my promoter's license on the line.
That's what I wanted to hear, Oscar. I wanted to make sure that we ended this segment with you promising boxing fans we will see Triple G versus Canelo Alvarez in 2017. Do I have your word on that, sir?
You have my word, and Canelo is not afraid of Triple G. September, we're hoping he signs the contract, and it will happen.
Oscar, thank you. We're also looking forward to Saturday.
I know where I'm going to be at.
The
I
Forum.
know where I'm going to be.
And Oscar, I want to personally thank you for putting up with those two. Max and Stephen A. are a lot. I got to deal with both of them every day.
I love putting up with them. I love putting up with them.
See, but you feel for me. Those two are tough.
I came on the show for you, Molly.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Like everybody.
Smart move.
We appreciate you. All right, coming up next.